A new day as I rely on this music like you wouldn't believe. It is almost a mental crutch. For the words to start flowing, something to do with inspiration, I know not what. Welcome back. Artist Journal, September 4th, 2024, broadcasting from a beautiful, sunny, not quite fall day in Berlin, Germany. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Dreaming of the beach, dreaming of Greece, where I'll be on Friday. Friday morning, when I regularly would record this show, I'll be on a plane, lifting off into the sky. Is it Scoop Airlines? I'm terrified. But all worth it. All worth it. So, so no show on Friday, but my goal and plan, very quickly, is to record while I'm out there. And I'm hoping it will stimulate experimentation and everything. So just so you know, so the goal is to keep the schedule apart from Friday, but let's see. But I am going to, again, it may be different. It's going to be a couple of weeks, over a week in Anafi, which is beside Santorini. As my friend out of Athens was telling me, it's like put it this way, Santorini is very trendy. You've probably seen it on Instagram with all the white and the blue. So that's kind of like the obvious place to go. And my friend is more of a local, so to speak. And she's like, let's go to Anafi with a couple other friends, and which is right beside it. And then a week in Crete, taking the ferry down to meet another friend who's vacationing with his family over near Heraklion. So it should be interesting. The first week might be trickier because I'm staying with 3 other people in this Airbnb, so it's always tricky when you don't have kind of sovereignty over the space. Of course, I live by myself. If I didn't live by myself, this show would be a lot trickier. However, the second week I'm on my own in an Airbnb, so that should be easier. So enough with the preliminaries here. Let's look at Ex Mortal. I was joking with myself. It's Ex Mortal Day because, of course, we have Ex Mortal on the spaces today. Really looking forward to that. And it's nice to have kind of, video glitch, I guess another glitch artist, but someone who's kind of more video centric. Perhaps I'm a little centric to, I guess more like JPEGs and GIFs. So it's nice to have a little bit more video. Of course, this looks like perhaps it's a GIF. The mediums do start to blend at a certain point. So here it is, a recent work by Ex Mortal here. Now it's 79 Tezos, on a roll, I would say, in the last 6 weeks, if I had to venture a guess. Pretty good. Already at 79 Tezos. I mean, Tezos is getting killed. It's almost at like 60 cents there. And it looks like things could fall more should Bitcoin go down. Of course, all other cryptos following Bitcoin for the most part. Golden Hour Under a Broken Sky. Fantastic title. And the underscores. Of course, Ex Mortal, as you'll see here, putting the underscore even after Mortal. Enjoying the underscores here. I kind of love it. I only really noticed it when I was writing the name for the space that's going to take place today. So, beautiful color here. And it's kind of like, I've long discussed how pixel art and nature go well together. It seems also that video glitchery also seems to go well with nature. I think especially these works here, these kind of landscape works, for lack of a better term, often beach related, and this kind of, rolling waves coming into this shore here, as well as the sky. There's something, to state the super obvious, and the Impressionists would probably laugh at me for saying this, but there's something about nature, right? But put it this way, where I'm going with this is there's something about nature and the contrast of nature with technology. And here you see it, I'd argue in its most extreme form, you could argue with pixel art. It's almost nature abstracted, and you get the hard contrast of what I always call the curvilinear forms of nature, biomorphic, edges with the, curved edges with the hard squares of pixelated digital technology. A huge contrast. You see a similar contrast here. I'd argue it's not as hard, but maybe it's as beautiful. And here, though, it's of a different nature. It's of a different kind. And of course, nature, just so you know, comes from physis, the Greek word, of course, Aristotle's book on the physis. It's about change, physics, right? So when we're talking about nature, that came, and I think the Latin is, I'm starting to go out of my depth. I think the Latin is natura or something like this, naturalis. And I think the Greek is physis, Physis, and it's about change. The nature of nature is kind of means change, right? And so, interestingly, here we see technology and nature. It's kind of beautiful, isn't it? And these wonderful colors, this very modern artwork. Again, this is only possible through, and here it is, glitched colorized with analog glitch gear, digital video playback, glitched colorized with analog glitch gear, and Eurorack modular video hardware, analog glitching performed with a Fermata hither-dither, focus enhancements, MX4 video mixer used at end of chain for stabilization, captured with a Roland VR3 capture device, post-processing performed in After Effects. I mean, it's a paragraph of all the equipment that is being used here. And it's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's a paragraph of all the information that's used, or of all the equipment that's used here. And it just goes to show how much work gets put into this. Some people might think, again, this is pressing a button. Okay, I'll take a video of the sea, and then I just press a button in After Effects, and I'll get this, gorgeous work of art. And, part of my favorite part right here is maybe on the side here. I'm kind of big on these superficialities, as well as here. I mean, it's beautiful throughout, and the color. It's kind of like a amped up sunset. But, it goes to show just how much expertise, frankly, how much techne, how much craft is required here, how much art is required here. So X-Mortal already at 79 Tez, and let's just see how much longer to go in this English auction, as they call it here. 8 hours to go. So we'll see what it goes for. Again, it's kind of exciting. I feel like we've seen in the last 3 or 4 months a bit of a bit of a collectability, shall we say, an increased collectability in video glitch art, which I think is super interesting. Here is another one by X-Mortal. It's called Reflect or _Reflect. Beautifully, even with the spacing, all these little details go to create the impression of the artwork. R space E space F. And again, you see what looks like the same process here, right? The same art, right? The same technical process. So here is another one. And again, kind of similar to our last one here, kind of not so much, I guess you could call it a beach of sorts, not necessarily the beaches of Greece. This is more like the beaches of Ostsee, or somewhere in Germany or in Canada, more of a lake beach, shall we say. Similarly beautiful colors, though. And again, you see a kind of gorgeous moving artistry here. And although I call this video, because it is so based in video, it is a GIF, as far as I can tell here. I didn't need to press play here, right? So, which is also interesting in and of itself. So this is an edition of 13, and it is 12 Tezos, 22 cents on secondary. Let's just see what it sold for on primary. A mere $4.14. So it's a wonderful time, as we were mentioning earlier, to be a collector and an artist on this blockchain. A kind of golden age, it's tempting to say. Again, where someone can make a beautiful art piece, upload it, someone can collect it for $4 on primary, and the artist can collect, let's say, 4 times 13, a cool $60 US. I'm Canadian, so that, that's even $90 Canadian or something to that effect, maybe 80. So interesting, and interesting also the hardware changes here. We see the BPMC Fluxus Duo. So all to say, gorgeous works to get us started and inspired for those that are trying to pursue the beach here into September. So here we go. Ex-Mortal also, while we're on, it is Ex-Mortal Day here today, and also at RGB MTL. I don't think we saw this one. Again, Playing with Nature. There's something about it, isn't there? So very interesting here, and I believe Strano. I'm not sure. Tezos Labs curated Strano, and of course Nicholas Sassoon was also involved in I keep it's wearing well, this show. Like, I keep looking at it and being impressed. And you know what I think it is, which probably you already thought of. It really is this display of, like, you can tell video glitch or glitch artists, but people who are who already are incorporated and dealing with video all the time, who have this is probably from their studios, these CRTs, these televisions, right? So for them to move this into exhibition space, kind of not a big deal. This is how they work, so to speak. This is probably them taking part of their studio and moving it, or taking ideas from, working in the studio and going, hey, what if we had 5 of these on top of each other? And so, and again, there's something very Warholian about this display. Of course, Tezos, working deeply in video, what I'd call video glitch, with these kind of TVs. We remember the Modern Furniture series. And so there's something very Warholian about it, because each of these TVs will present the art slightly differently and in a slightly different way. And sometimes I'm not sure if it's the way it was recorded or not, but even the backlighting, the blue backlighting here. This is, to me, this is like if I went to MoMA, and I started seeing this kind of display, I'd go, yeah, that's pretty cool. Right? That doesn't look out of place here. You could argue this is done better than we're seeing in some museums, which kind of, opens a deeper question for me. Because, as we saw with Art News the other day, 2 shows ago, where we're looking at the Art News article that was quoting NFT Evening, which actually, and trying to analyze the digital art market, based on the blockchain NFTs, and read into all this thing when confusing all the PFP and the art, no subtleties. And then we go to the source website that Art News was quoting, and then it's just completely anonymous, right? It could have been you or me who sent this up and then put out a press release, and then Art News picks it up. And it could be all fabricated for all we know. I mean, it's probably real data, but who knows? So to me, the reason I bring that up is because I think it's important to, it's like that Dali painting, to lift the veil, or like that medieval kind of that very famous medieval woodcut of the guy peeking behind the veil. Because we live in this world of perception, I would argue, and with that of authorities, and that we give, it's exactly like Santiago was saying about art. And how strange is it, Santiago was saying in that tweet, how strange is it that we have an art piece and then it's put into a museum, and then all of a sudden we look at that art piece different. It's ridiculous, but it's true, as I think he put it. And it's kind of like the power of social proof. And we're kind of back to social proof with Art News. All of a sudden it's like, oh, here's social proof. Oh, it's MoMA. But I think it's worth our while, from a critical thinking point of view, to think freely and to actually just take everything for what it is and try not to assume too much, and perhaps resist social proof is where I'm going with this. Perhaps we need to be consciously actually trying to resist this most powerful of marketing tools, social proof, and of coloring perception. As Santiago so, accurately put it in that tweet, talking about how art changes when we put it into a museum, even though it's the same work. It's ridiculous. And so, is it better? Right? So, what is the reality? Is social proof an illusion? So, and the reason I bring all this up is because, you know what? If you told me this was MoMA, I would go, yeah, okay. I wouldn't have any reason to not think so. I wouldn't be like, oh, look at the amateur work that MoMA did. I would go, yeah, that looks like it came out of MoMA. So, especially in this internet age, where I think, it's like the fourth turning, as all the financial people like to say, which is more of a sociological thing. All these institutions are, I suspect, going to start to break down. Over time, it's inevitable. It's a matter of time. It's just how long. So when I see this, I just go, what does it mean? And if that was in MoMA, what does that mean? So anyways, big space today with Ex-Mortal. I'm really thrilled. Ex-Mortal was excited about it too online, which made me even more excited. RuneTune's going to be there too. Should be a great time. There's a lot of people going to it too, which is also exciting. So that is today at 3:30. I'm getting this video out a little earlier, so you may watch this possibly before we start. So do check it out. It's at 3:30 European time, 9:30 a.m. New York, Eastern Standard Time. And also, actually, let's look at YouTube. I like to go to YouTube first. Let's look at the comments here. And this was a breakthrough for me, and I think it was triggered, this idea of a painting as a system. I think it was triggered by RJ's, as we were noting at the end of the show when we were looking at RJ, kind of like the artwork, the system is a painting, or the art is the system, or something. And I think it triggered something, because what's interesting about this is if you've watched, lectures on the history of science, it seems, or if you are more, I never took too many science classes, but I watched a lot of lectures on the history of science in just from the great courses, which I highly recommend. I should actually put like a affiliate link here since I talk about them a lot. But this idea of treating reality as a system of relationships is kind of, as far as I understand, kind of current thinking. And so what if we apply this idea of how we're dealing with the universe kind of from a cutting edge science point of view? What if we start applying that to artworks, treating an artwork as a system? As I was pointing out yesterday, it's not about Hasdrubal Waffle necessarily making a Mona Lisa-like rendering of a pogo or a dinosaur or whatever that was. It was about the system of relationships between elements it's a system of relationships between elements in a kind of vacuum of sorts, a universe of sorts, as I like to call it, within, four walls or whatever your framing device is. Let's go to the comments here. Just making sure I'm recording here. Okay, Hypa Morano. Let's go into the comments here. I really like the point you make about using digital brushes imitating traditional ones. Yeah, let's continue. I always feel weird about it when I look into some digital paintings made with them. Not sure how well it seats conceptually on a pure digital piece. And I had this same reservation, but I think it was probably Waffles that kind of brought me over to going, this is all just digital brushery. And maybe we shouldn't care at all, in a sense. Even though conceptually, I've always kind of gravitated, shall we say, towards the purely digital brush. Big fan of the magic wand in Photoshop, these kind of natively digital tools, the pencil tool for that crisp edge, speaking in Photoshop terms. Let's continue. I really appreciate when artists own their own mark making and errors that make the piece very human and unique. So much to explore into the native digital mark making. Thanks for all the work you put into this channel. Cheers. Awesome comment, and I share your fascination with this whole topic because conceptually it is something to get your head around. And again, when I look at, Curio Fringe, when I look at Waffles, and I see this kind of not caring, and I think it's by virtue of using the kids' tools and just going, this is good enough. Don't overthink it, is kind of like the moral of the story as far as these digital tools. And also, don't put up barriers unnecessarily. Although, I mean, it depends what you're trying to do and the context and everything. PP Universal, thanks, Adrian, for the feature. It was great to meet you in person. Wish you the best in Greece. And it was awesome to meet PP Universal at a cafe there with Marietta in a beautiful part of Buenos Aires. It is such a nice part of Buenos Aires. Trying to remember, is it Rancora? The neighborhood? Bancora? Something R. Wish you the best in Greece. Thank you. It was just an absolute pleasure to meet PP in person. Very friendly individual. Rada, thanks for doing this, sir. Enjoy Greece. Thank you, Rada, and just a thrill as ever to hear from you. I believe we have a work, actually, by Rada this episode. Lord Misfit, awesome to hear from you. It is a pleasure to hear from you. Sin Pablo, great, nice, thank you. Awesome to hear from you. And finally, Runetune, who will be co-hosting with me this afternoon. You've been talking a lot about your invigorated interest in physicals, or making physicals of digital work as a means of preservation. Yes, indeed, a very counterintuitive thought. We'll continue. Hasdrubal makes very texturally rich digital work, and you can imagine it working well physically. There's another artist, Morgan Blair, who makes physical work that looks exceptional as digital. I even thought her work was digital the first time I saw it. It got me thinking about personal artistic missions, principally a goal of making work that is versatile, both physically and digitally. There are plenty of artists whose work we can imagine working really well as physical artworks, and then there are some artworks which wouldn't operate well as physical and vice versa. Well, yeah, exactly. Like, how would you do the Ex Mortal, for example, right, in a physical? You could. You could take a screen, or, if it's a GIF, there's going to be 30 frames or whatever the case is. And remember, we saw an example of that where there's the big one on top and then each little frame underneath. You could do 30 different prints in the case of the Ex Mortal. This is an opportunity, I suspect. This going, like, again, my thought has evolved over the course of this show as to what it all means, and I've made this point repeatedly, so I won't dwell on it. But it is a new artwork. If you make a digital file, and then you start making a physical version of that digital work, to me, it's a separate artwork. It is a completely separate artwork, and that makes it a much cleaner situation conceptually. Because otherwise, it's like, is the photo of the physical, the artwork? You remember with Damien Hirst, as we were just discussing last episode. Is it and that was the nature of Hirst's whole experiment, right? What do you want, the physical or the NFT, the photo, I would call it, of the artwork? And of course, you want the physical, in my opinion, because otherwise it's just a photo of the artwork. That is the artwork. It is not, that is the artwork. It's a photo of an artwork. And so the artwork is kind of related to the photo, but it's not the original, quote unquote. So that is where I am. Otherwise, if you start saying, this is the same and everything, it's a conceptual mess, I would argue. It starts to break down. And it's like saying, this is all one thing. The only kind of weird exception small kind of caveat I'd put to this is there's something to be said for, let's say you're selling a physical and then you want to kind of put it on the blockchain for the record, for history and everything, and then saying, okay, I'm going to take a picture of this, and then if you own the physical, here's basically your digital receipt on the blockchain. Here's an NFT, a photo of the work, but to prove, you own this, and I'll put on my, details that whoever owns this should have the NFT, etc. It's a certificate of authenticity of sorts. That would be the only exception I'd put into identifying the two. So let's continue. Also, some comments on Twitter. Thank you again for the support. Great to just humbling here. Skull, I need to catch your vids more often. Love your insights. Thank you, Skull. I totally appreciate it. Zoni Yagar, amazing Pocobelli. Thank you. You guys, it really is the fuel in a lot of ways that keeps this show going, as the enthusiasm here. Jan Lucas Magone, new cool piece today. Yeah. Awesome. And actually, we actually have a Jan piece in this episode. Rurich, awesome to hear from you. I am trying to get Rurich on the Spaces, who has been following this Tezos object scene for a long time. longer than me, for sure. Oyanii Coyote, I'm all caught up. Wonderful video, sir. Awesome to hear from you, and I appreciate the continued positivity. K's Works, Little Cakes. Glad you liked the Yuriko Sasaoko work installation I posted the other day. The video on the screens, I believe, were of her face and flower petals. She's the coolest video installation artist I've come across recently. And posting this super interesting piece here, I think I actually brought this up in another tab. I didn't realize it was a comment. Look at how cool that is. I don't know if you can see it, but it's basically kind of almost rectangular square screens that are made. These look like squares here, and then a TV making a bigger work. So pretty interesting link there from Cakes, made in Shiga, and Yuriko Sasaoka is the artist. Very cool. Tornado Rodriguez, woohoo! Knew I know what I will watch today. Thank you, Tornado. Awesome to hear from you. Keep up the great, beautiful art there. Brain Dead. Hey there, Adrian. I just finished the episode. Great selections as always. Also, thank you for the shout out. And we have another work by Brain Dead on Super Rare. Really cool work with a keyboard. We're going to see that in a few tabs here. Thank you for the comment. Retro Manny. Happy New Year. Exactly. And as to you, Manny, awesome to hear from you. Because now, Aitzo wrote a comment here as to how to pronounce Izalowski. You don't pronounce the K, is what Aitzo was saying. Izalowski. Izalossi. So thank you for the comment here. Thanks for the mention, especially the RGB MTL show, which was special to many of us. Indeed. Next year I'll have to put it on the calendar. Skull Takes, wonderful show to start this month. Pocobelli. Also had to run to Rodeo to pick up those amazing Hasdrubal waffles. The power of the art compelled me, and I felt the same way. Just rad artwork from Waffles as ever. Can you believe it? Aw, heck. Indeed, I refuse to believe it. Joshua, awesome to hear from you. Olivera Durdovic, this work by Hasdrubal Waffle, just started watching, already love it. I think we have a work by Olivera here too. So it all continues, and the great waffles here. Mr. Adrian Pocobelli, wow, thank you so much for the incredible insights and for picking up on the nuances. Yes, back to browsers and revisiting some older ideas from an external drive. Super stoked about the CRTs too. Such a fun way to present GIFs, in my opinion. All love to you. So thank you, Waffles. Just rad to hear from you. And it's always rad to hear from the artists in the show. So that is rad too. You know, it's a small world after all, as they say. Sahar NFT, great to hear from you. Ilya Barbarin, thank you. Leprochant, awesome to hear from you. And finally, Real. I was raised on YouTube, 1986. And so welcome to the show, and a quick look at the community here. Very cool. This was just posted by Luke, sharing the story. Among the pieces person offered, the lawsuit said, were a rendition that Andy Warhol did of his famous John Wayne for $150,000 and, quote, one of the original Warhol canvases of Royal Queen Elizabeth for $82,500. So Florida family spent $6 million on fake Warhols. You know, it looks fake. That looks totally fake. If you look at it. I mean, that doesn't look like a Warhol at all. Kind of like, I don't want to say they deserved it. I mean, $6 million, nobody deserves to be scammed. But you should really know what you're doing. Because just from here, that is not a screen print, right? Wow. Amazing. Thank you for posting that, Luke. Luke always on top of the scene there, Luke 500. Chrome Void, 3 Wojaks. This is awesome. I brought it up later in the show in the glitch section. Really kind of cool, moody piece there. Ernesto Ash, awesome to hear from you. And here we see, this is for Tezos Tuesday de Opinares. So I can't speak Spanish, but just a cool GIF here, as we can see here. So cool to see Ernesto Ash's animated abstracts. Zizo, thank you for posting cool pieces here. Kind of a sci-fi AI feel to it. And here, and here. Very cool. That looks like the British Museum. That is the British Museum, isn't it? Okay, happy Tuesday. And here, Macrometry, thank you for posting. More experimental wizardry here. from Macrometry. Interesting negative space here too. Very cool. Interesting colors. First Syndrome, Oddfellows 1 and 2. Interesting work here, kind of collage. Thank you for posting, and kind of a combination with painting. Neho Out, who actually made this beautiful, if you remember last show, if you remember this is Neho. You'll see there, Adrian and Neho. Just awesome. And there's Neho. So here is Neho. Awesome to hear from you, Neho, and I'm sure I follow you. That is a glitch on X. This is my piece for the On-Chain Summer Collection exhibited this weekend at the Neutral Arts Celebration, available on Zora. So go and look at this. There's the mate. So go to Zora. Look at how beautifully this is done. A very talented artist, as you could see from that portrait, just done while we were recording a video, a live video there in Buenos Aires. And look at this. This is quite beautiful. Neho, look at this background here, this painterly background. So this is on Zora, and even just this overlapping, this is beautiful, beautiful work here, and quite original. And again, the mate, which I tried only for the first time. I had barely heard of mate before. Neho was there, hilariously. So anyways, big shout out to Neho. That is awesome. Beautiful work. Sonny Jager, that's on Zora, if you want to collect it. Sonny Jager, GM, new drop on Tezos, fully hand-drawn 2D animation, 2 Tezos. Cool work, actually. Never seen this artist before, Sonny Jager. So the community is doing its thing, and there is Zizo, who I believe we saw post earlier, and this we saw last episode. So very cool. Thank you, everybody, for posting in the community. It's pretty rad. I think we're at 509, 510 community members, so pretty cool. Into interesting story here, the art newspaper, global turmoil as raising taxes tilt art trade towards new era. Increasingly unsettled elites are making a struggling market even less predictable. Now, I'm kind of back to this comment I've been making. I think part of what's going on here, and it's an uneven market. Again, it's a liquidity market, as I've been describing. Warhols are basically keeping their value. I'm sure a Basquiat is basically keeping its value. Maybe not at records, but it's basically keeping its value. But it's all the kind of extraneous, more obscure, harder to get, more art consultancy type works, abstract, right, that are suffering, is my impression. And I wonder to myself, as the market starts to slump, yeah, okay, there's a liquidity issue. Is that the surface explanation, though? But is there something deeper going on? Is the question I ask myself when I start seeing these articles. So here, I'm going to read just a couple of paragraphs here. Pretty well everyone in the international art market agrees the trade is slumping. It's interesting, they just call it a trade. The most pressing question this autumn is whether the slump is a mere cyclical downturn or something more seismic, because it is continuing. Aggregate global auction sales at Sotheby's, Christie's, and Phillips declined 27% in the first half of 2024, and that's based on 2023, which was a huge decline from 2022. With auction sales of post-war and contemporary art down 25.8% by value, according to Contemporary Art Market Confidence Report, published in July by the London-based analyst Art Tactic. The study's confidence indicator, based on responses from 128 Art World insiders, stood at 22 on a scale of 100, a 4-year low. So confidence is low, 22 out of 100. And here is a quote from the report. Quote, negative market sentiment continues to outweigh positive voices in the market, and it is the 5th consecutive reading where pessimists outweigh optimists. And remember the Kachi Kazakina article where we saw the supply is too large, the prices are too expensive? Right? And I also think there's an aesthetic issue. I think it's been kind of bubbling, and in a liquid market, there's all the speculation, and when the times are good, more things will just survive. But as the liquidity gets pulled out of the market, then you kind of see what is kind of standing the test of time to a certain degree. This is where the market does start to show a kind of indication of what will stand the test of time, I would argue. So here's just another quote, and then we will move on. Things are quieter. Who is this? This is someone called Worth, Worth says, I don't see. Do they not put the name? How is that possible? Let's just do a quick thing because I'm just curious from a journalism point of view. Okay, it's here. It's here. Okay, let's look. Things are quieter. Everyone is feeling it, but I'm amazed more galleries haven't closed, says Candace Worth, a New York-based art advisor specializing in the primary market for contemporary art. Worth points out that high interest rates are just one of many factors inhibiting demand, along with escalating costs of collecting, right, because storage is getting more expensive, and a general sense of exhaustion in the overheated market for works by the most sought-after artists. She adds that those buying purely for investment have discovered how difficult it is to make money out of art. Right? It's almost like that's a whole other thing. Like the art as an investment idea, because I don't know about you, but I was seeing on my Instagram in the last year, performs better than the stock market. Learn about our service here, more than 7%. This side, this idea that, you should be buying art because it outperforms, right? Worth continues, I really do believe things will settle out. I mean, inevitably, but it may take a year, right? So again, I was mentioning, I think last episode, think how hard it would be to be an art consultant right now. Nobody's looking for something obscure right now, I would argue. Put it this way, though. You know what? If I was an art consultant, of course you know where I'd be. I'd be like, well, actually, I'll show you exactly where to go. It's called object.com. It's called, whatever else. I'd say it's Tezos art. You want to get a bang for your buck? Do you want cheap art that's high quality, that nobody's really celebrating, that's maybe ahead of the curve? Let me help you. I mean, that's a business, in theory. If I was a ruthless pragmatist, I'm just a pragmatist, but not always. I try not to be a ruthless pragmatist. I would shut down this show, and I would say, okay, here's what I've done in the past. Art market, New York. Here's your I can do the consultancy. I've shown I can do it. Let's say, and then let's go pay me a bunch of money, and I'll tell you where to go on the blockchain because it takes a while to figure it out. It is an expertise of sorts. Of course, that's no fun, though I would argue. So that is why we continue here. But that's if I was just ruthless about it. Other people could do it here too, frankly. So, anyways, just all kind of interesting. So value, it's been a challenging macro environment. Finally, Guillaume Cerruti, the chief executive of Christie's, on a media call in July, explaining why his company's auction sales declined 22%. Value was down. Supply wasn't what it was last year. Alex Rotter, Christie's chairman of 20th and 20th Century Art, on the same call, we are dependent on global events and emotion, neither of which has been cooperating. The geopolitical instability caused by the ongoing wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, Chinese economy, has spooked the wealthy, making them nervous about buying and selling high-value art. So even Impressionists, for the first time in decades, Christie's did not hold an auction of Impressionist or modern art in London this June. That suggests that it is going to the larger into more liquid markets. Exemplifying the declining values of even supposed blue chip art investments was the auction's top lot, Jean-Michel Basquiat's portrait of the artist as a young derelict. Although this mixed media triptych made £16 million with fees at Sotheby's this June, it had been withdrawn in May 2022 from a Christie's auction in New York, where it carried a significantly higher unpublished estimate of around £23 million. So all pretty interesting as we continue here. As Flexosaurus Rex says here, my art collection on Tezos is either going to be worth more than Fort Knox or zero. And either way, I will still have one of the most culturally significant collections of digital art on the internet and not care. Few understand. This is exactly how I feel about my art collection as well. It's either I'm going to have a wonderful, retirement there. I don't think I'll ever retire, honestly. But should I have to retire? Either I'm going to be extremely comfortable or we'll just be, it's getting along, as it goes here. But I completely agree with this. And you know what? Flexosaurus. This is why I think it is going to be worth a lot of money. Because I think a lot of us see this. A culturally significant collection, what makes something valuable, right, is it's kind of being culturally significant. So it may take 200 years. We may not enjoy the fruits, the benefits of it, but I think time will see us through. Really cool, interesting comment. Dr. Lee NFT, huge collector. I know why it's like this, but in all honesty, seeing this button next to an artwork, digital or physical, 9 times out of 10, I'll just walk away. Inquire. Who can't relate to that? Another just insight of truth here from Dr. Lee NFT. Who wants to engage with that and all of the headache and all of the status games, frankly, that's going to come from, inquiring about a work of art, and then you feel like you're entering into a, shark-infested waters. If I saw that on like Artsy and I had to hit inquire, it's like into the shark-infested waters. This person on the other side of this inquiry simply wants to extract as much money out of me as they possibly can. I mean, who wants to walk into that environment? So totally agree with that. Unknown Collector, happy Tezos Tuesday, everyone. All the base stuff feels so forced. Discovering art on ETH Layer 1 at the moment is mostly as exciting as cleaning the kitchen. Besides a few projects, of course. Art on Solana doesn't even appear in my bubble anymore. It's pretty interesting. I mean, other than a little bit of action on Super Rare, where we saw Santiago make a sale, we've seen Myth put in some work. We've seen, we're seeing Brain Dead. Like, there is a little bit of kind of bubbling on Super Rare. Other than that, though, yeah. Thank God there is the Tezos art community. I mean, as we're seeing here, there's something to be said for not getting in the way, not screwing up. There's something like Tezos is really showing resilience here. They have a pretty good streak. They've gone on since 2021, in different ways. And you could say Hen was a screw up when it shut down, but ultimately, let's call it Object. They haven't really blown it in 3-4 years. I mean, how long has it been? 2021? We're in 2024. Let's call it three years. I don't know exactly when they started. Let's call it, I imagine, fall 2021, summer 2021. So it's pretty impressive. Object and the Tezos art community, it continues here. It seems stronger to a certain degree. I don't know if I'd say it's stronger than ever, but it's tempting to think that. Not sure if I would be very active at the moment without it. Yeah, and you see here, as I pointed out last time, like here are the works. I mean, I'd say 70 to 80% object, interestingly. And the others are like tweets that maybe are linking to an object at some point. It keeps me excited, and there's still more great art release that I can collect. So exactly, and at a great price. And of course, I follow UC, as I like to call them, just a glitch on X. Kalo, is it me or is everything 10 times more fragmented, siloed than 2 years ago? Art communities, blockchains, social apps. Feels like everyone is in their own bubble. It's true, and it makes me sad, actually, that it makes me even sadder. It makes me think of the Brazil people, because I do notice it. Where are they, right, on X? And, it's really unfortunate because there is all this fragmentation, and at least on X, there's a kind of a fairly, even if you were on all these other places, you could kind of all meet on X, and it kind of makes me think of the Brazilians there. I hope that gets sorted out pretty soon. I think it will. I suspect one way or another, because both sides have an interest in resolving it, but who knows? Interesting comment from Kalo. Observation. Neurocolor, look at this. 4 days ago, veteran crypto art collector Token Angels acquired Qualia Matrix, a study in color perception and minimalism, an animated 4x4 GIF that is rendered differently when scaled up in browsers' devices due to their use of different anti-aliasing implementations. And I'm kind of back to our discussion on if you make a physical of a digital, it is a different artwork. And I would just say that is ontologically, philosophically true. It is a different work, and it is a different experience. And this to me is kind of a case in point. So let's say I take my 4x4 pixel and it's like these, and I put it on different screens, and these different screens render it differently. Those are different artworks. And so I just think this is super interesting as we kind of figure out philosophically what it means to render digital works in different ways, especially physically. There's something that I think is worth, a very simple idea that's worth kind of internalizing here. And so sold for $5,000, Qualia Matrix, a study in color perception. I'm not sure if let's see if there's, so here it is, the first version, the second version, right? Pretty cool minimal art, I have to say. I mean, that's pretty rad. Like there's something being said here. Quite interesting. And what this is, for those that might not realize, it's like 4 tiny little pixels blown up, right? Maximized. And this is how different screens deal with it. So saying something about the technology, right? And about rendering and about making things physical, right? That whole process that we've been describing here. Very cool post from Neurocolor. Vinny Hager with, I'm not sure which one this is, if this is Deluxe Paint or what it is, computer class, but we see a Vinny Hager there on at least in the drawings here, as you see here. So look at how great that looks. So it's pretty cool. I mean, we see the style using different a new tool here, or an old tool. Pretty cool. Here's mech.txt. Maybe, not sure what mech is up to here. Kind of looks like a game is being created here. So isn't that interesting? So what is, it looks like Proceed, almost like a choose your own adventure type game. Pretty cool from Mech here. So we've seen this in a few different, from a few different perspectives here, which is we've seen it with Retromani, this relationship between video games and art, particularly in the digital sphere. We've seen it with Retromani, kind of taking more of a video game and then kind of artifying it. And here we're seeing, I guess we'd call a video game structure, but more the choose your own adventure, and then putting different art pieces, right? We've also seen, glitch ROMs where video games are literally existing video games are taken and then kind of wrecked and destroyed through the hex, through changing the code. So it's a very interesting relationship here. It's there's a lot to be, there's a lot of territory here because, again, I'd argue one of the defining features of many of these artists, what I call the second generation of digital art, is kind of aesthetic appreciation for digital imagery whose genesis came out of playing video games. In other words, when they were kids and playing video games, there were some beautiful screens that they saw. And ultimately, as you grow older and you start to make art and everything, then you start going, well, why isn't that art on a subliminal or a conscious level, right? Why, what's wrong with that? And all of a sudden, hey, I'm going to make this pixel art. Let's continue. Innovare. Hello, September. In my mind, I am still on August 23rd in Montreal. I was in Buenos Aires, so I couldn't have gone to this, interestingly, but maybe next year. Thank you, Tezos Labs, for the great documentation. Indeed. This is fantastic documentation. Again, the backlight. Not only is this done brilliantly with the CRTs, even this, putting, and this looks like a little tablet here with the artist and the QR code. And then the lighting, though. This is totally professional, isn't it? And I mean, that's almost an understatement to call it that. This is really impressive, isn't it? And here are a few more. Kareem Safa. A late thank you to RGB Montreal. Thank you to Mateo.eth for selecting my work. Shout out to Strano, Nicholas Sassoon, and Tezos Labs, and everybody else involved. And so this kind of work here, like Kareem Safa's, looks spectacular on screens. Again, as I always call it here, the alchemy of scale. And then look at this. And you could call it the alchemy of repetition to a certain degree here. And look at this. This almost looks like Ultima 4 layout, but it's not, right? And this is probably just a quick screen. Beautiful. And there looks like TVs. I don't even know what's going on in that one. And then here, interesting mirroring going on here. So super interesting from Kareem Safa at RGB Montreal. This to me, as far as digital art in 2024, this was a major happening. I'm starting to realize here, kind of slowly coming to the realization, this was a major happening from my perspective over here. Let's continue. Blue Retina. Hotline ping on RGB Montreal. Free to mint on Zora base until the 18th as part of your Quote Your Summer Art Collection. Link on pin. So also Blue Retina here on the screen. So I believe that's the work, and you just see how great these looks. Another way to do it would be to make this just massive, but still looking wonderful here on the wall. Projector and digital art, a wonderful thing. Of course, I follow Blue Retina. That is a glitch on X Neutro. So also another happening this summer here. This was Neutro after I left, the weekend after I left Buenos Aires. Here's just more awesome footage. I mean, you just see how big. Again, look at the TVs. And this juxtaposition of these old TVs with the projecting, even putting some plants, more TVs. This is very do-it-yourself, isn't it? Like, in a sense, bringing it back to MoMA, like a certain kind of standard is starting to be established here. And it's going to be very interesting because I would argue some even fancy galleries may not be able to make it as nice as what we're seeing here. It's going to be very interesting. Like, my eyes are open for seeing, okay, what is the established kind of art world? How are they showing it again? Right? And of course, a lot of great stuff and well done. But now there's kind of a more on par. This isn't NFT London. This isn't Tezos, right? As we were mentioning a couple episodes ago. And again, you just see these young people at work. It's awesome. People at work. And look at this. Look at this display here. That was in at the crypto conference, at the Aleph crypto conference, you see Captain's work there. It fits this screen perfectly. When I saw that, Bulls was showing it to me, I was like, this looks like it could be in the finest art galleries in the world, this work here. All of them. There's Mental Noise and others, not sure who that is. So all to say, just super cool. And one more from Neutro Arts here. Looks like a happening, doesn't it? I mean, what amazing video they have going on here. So just super cool. Also, so we saw this earlier, okay? That post from Little Cakes was in the comments. Retro Manny, back to the grind again. So 3D printing. So we've looked at a lot of plotting. Now we're seeing 3D printing at work. So just very cool. Manny working on several fronts here. And I want to bring this up last episode. Look at this physical. So again, printing on wood, solving a lot of issues with digital art on wood here from Lily Illo. Look at how spectacular that looks, right? This isn't inkjet on paper, it's inkjet probably on wood. This is gorgeous. And a kind of a much simpler solution than trying to emulate the paint strokes is actually just finding a textured surface. We saw that to a certain degree with Element Lee, right? Putting on a brown paper bag or whatever your medium is, or cardboard, burning it into cardboard. This is quite, stunning, what we see here. So look at how good that looks. An original artwork. Again, this is not the original artwork here. Like, this is a different artwork. The way it's being rendered here, it is a different experience, a different work. Turo, Moto MT, so working on oil in the studio here. Nice square canvas here. So Moto MT, who of course I follow, GM Friends after 6 months without a touch of oil, here we go again. So cool to see these artists working in several mediums. And of course we see the signature butterflies there and what looks like the Moto MT character. And here's Lucas Ox from the Streets to the Streets, putting the artwork online, and there's a Julian, and here is Pamelo Chirone, and more. So as you see there, Aleph the big crypto conference, massive crypto conference there in Buenos Aires. Very interesting what they're doing over there. Nicholas Sassoon, RGBing. So look at how interesting this is. I wonder, are these different? They are. They're slightly different reds. I was looking at the numbers underneath, and this is a very cool way to do it. So slightly different versions of RGB here. I assume this is the pure one on the top, but who knows? Just interesting from Nicholas Sassoon. Here, Dan Control, Airs. So as we move into the artwork here, and as you can see, this looks like an Air Force One shoe. From a distance, you almost can't even tell what it is. It almost gets abstracted. Interestingly, a brilliant work, again, by Dan Control. Very conceptually cool artwork using one rendition of a shoe and then repeating it. And, again, just making repeat, just making many artworks from elements here. So you just see the endless possibilities here working in digital. You can take your layer and then just repeat it endlessly. He could do 10. You could do here, there's maybe 12 here. Maybe you could do 5 by 5, right? You could change all sorts of different things. So, and then you could start rendering physically. And how am I going to render? Okay, maybe I'll print this on wood. Maybe so all very interesting. Another Dan Control. That was only an edition of 10, by the way, for 10 Tezos, still available, by the way. Dan Control, this is on Foundation. So putting out a few works here. Love the combination of modern objects here. We have a fork. We have a PlayStation game controller. We have an eraser, almost that you'd find in school. And we also have a toothbrush. I think I buy those toothbrushes. So, and then a beautiful kind of mauve background there from Dan Control. Delete Everything, great title. Here's another one. So putting works on Foundation, and here you see a beer, lipstick. Not sure is that an orange cone? Again, reusing elements. These are all, I think, from previous artworks. Now, let's put them in a new composition. This is super interesting, what's going on here. So blue background here. Auction starting at 0.15 ETH and just minted on September 2nd. Super duper interesting. Another kind of gradient artist of sorts here, Nuv 1914. Another plant. And again, my eye just gravitates towards this outrageous line here. This bright white line, and there too. And looked like almost being done with a mouse, perhaps, but who knows? And then all of this wildness in here. Something very special about Nuv 1914. Show them almost every show. I believe out of Argentina. I never got to meet Nuv 1914, but next time I really hope to. Let's continue. Yuri J. Mini Oven. So a new Yuri J, super prolific. Yuri J kind of on a roll, seemingly. And look at the background here. Look at the textures. As Hen Collector was pointing out here, look at this psychedelic coffee here. It's pretty spectacular, actually, what's going on here. And again, just like letting the errors kind of shine through, as Warhol would say, embrace the mistakes, right? And then here we have weird composition. When you try and understand what this is, it kind of looks like a dollhouse type structure or something with this miniature, kitchen here. And then a big piece of coffee, a big cup of coffee or tea. I guess that's tea with a beautiful mosaic filter there. And then a matchbox. Brilliant. Look at the textures here. Mini oven, edition of 15, sold out at how much is Yuri selling? 20 Tezos. So nice move by Yuri J. Here, posting this work here, maybe a work in progress, perhaps finished, not sure. But it feels like you kind of see, again, we're lifting the veil here a little bit behind Yuri J's work in this piece. Beautiful. Here's Machine. Airbrush Art K. So just super interesting, always humor in Machine's work. Kind of, edgy work here. Kind of looks like a gun. Kind of looks like a cartoon character here. Not exactly sure what's going on here. Edgy work, edgy background from the Great Machine here. How much is this selling for? 10 Tezos, edition of 30. And how many left? 20. Only still 27 left. So maybe this was just minted yesterday. So Machine with a new work here. And yeah, just a really cool digital artist in their own right, as well as all the physicals that we've been following here. And here, Hasdrubal Waffle. Oh, this is on Rodeo. Another one, Private Dancer. So this is on Rodeo as well. Waffle's saying in a comment how really enjoying working there. It is a fun platform. I will say that. I mean, my reservations are, I've mentioned them a few times here. It is, as people have pointed out, the Spotification of digital art. It's sort of like so. Yeah, so I always like when I go to mint there, let's say a Waffles work, it's sort of with a lot of reservations and a lot of questions and a lot of, because yeah, in a sense, like it's not working that well for, and I think, also what goes through my head, I think of the people in Argentina that I know who are making good money or some money, good money in Argentina with what, the previous version of Zora, and all of a sudden that's taken away from them. And, that it matters to those people. Like, it's real money, right? Why does Argentina embrace crypto so much, right? It's because you don't have the same opportunities there that you might have, in other countries, right? So that also goes through my head. Anyways, let's continue here. Alexalon, Ed Marola. And again, I feel anybody should be able to mint wherever they want, as I've said previously, and with no judgment about it. But those are the thoughts that go through my head. So beautiful, right? I mean, edgy, almost looking like a bit of collage being pasted in here. And beautiful, edgy work here by Ed Marola. Nice, very crisp dithering here in the pixel art, and also in this kind of the frame gone awry, the frame gone wild here. So wild work here. And I think Ale times Elon, maybe Brazil bans Twitter, Elon enemy of democracy. So again, it would be pretty brutal to be cut off on X as the Brazilians are right now. I hope they solve that sometime soon. The Myth. Good morning. Where are we? So new work by The Myth, now on Tezos. Maybe, the sales weren't happening on Super Rare. I'm sure they will sell at some point, so maybe Myth going back to Tezos here. These very poetic works, and again, we see the color of the clothing reflected by these homunculi, as I call them, or small figures in the painting/window, right? And it's ambiguous, whether this is a painting or a window, probably a windowsill based on the perspective, I think we could say. Interesting piece here, beautifully painted, great color, as ever, by The Myth. So more kind of narrative painting style by The Myth. Love the foot, by the way. 35 Tezos, edition of 10, and they are moving, half gone. Let's continue. Here is Walk. Madonna with the Child, St. Anthony of Padua, and St. Roch. So more paintings here. I love these works by Walk. I want to get one at one point. Beautiful remix, digital remix, really, pastiche of these works. So sold for 11 Tezos for a one of one, Walk one of one. Fantastic deal. Olivera Durdovic, Messiah Complex, edition of 3. I'm not sure if we looked at this one, but also kind of having a kind of a, not quite a spray, but almost kind of a spray look. This is a digital work. And here we see, I don't think we looked at it, but we may have. Messiah Complex, this is 25 Tezos, and 2 are listed. Olivera Durdovic, big shout out. Thank you for the comments, by the way. Here's Santiago, me fixing my car with the power of my heart. So I guess if you want to help Santiago, it sounds like the car is broken. And so you can help Santiago fix his car by minting one of these open editions here, as you see. Beautifully pixelated abstract piece here. Open edition for 3 Tezos, 48 minted so far, so on his way, but probably needs more than that. Probably needs a new car at some point. But that's obviously easier said than done, especially for artists here. One-page zine, also by Santiago, edition of 13, at auction for 10 Tezos. And let's see what this is. Kind of an interesting black and white take on a Santiago abstract, almost on a piece of paper. Like, it looks like a PDF. It's a PDF. That is hilarious. So putting it, one-page zine. So changing the format. Interestingly, rather than it being a GIF or JPEG, it is a PDF. Interestingly. Anatomy, this was quite brilliant. Perfect Loop, September 3rd. Love this piece. This is awesome. Love the title, love the concept. So a figure made of Windows icons. Quite brilliant. Love it. And it's on Fake Whales Art Market. Edition of 15. And now 58 Tezos. Sold for primary art for 15. So sold out. Nice work there. Rennie Fish, what's your story? So kind of an edgy work where we see the vine, the thorned vine here, seeming to circle this figure who seems to be kind of sad here. Beautiful work by Rennie Fish. Not sure where it's going to be minted, but very interesting and beautifully animated. Kind of reminds me of the work that was on Bitcoin, which did sell, by the way. Here is Jan-Lucas Migone. Beautiful work. Kind of reminds me of the Olympics. Where is my crypto mind in the head collection? My body doesn't know where my thoughts these days, so I keep running in flames. I never stop. Animated GIF loop. Freehand digital oil painting. Rotoscoping pixel art details. Wow. So maybe that is where the pixel art is. In the skull, as well as when the skeleton turns blue. Pretty cool work, isn't it? So Jan-Lucas Migone, and this is 666, edition of 66, and there are 29 left, so selling quite briskly and well. Pretty cool piece. Here's Rata, Nuked. So Tez Rats 2024 special, tapping into the collective unconscious fear of nuclear war, nuclear Armageddon. Quite a beautiful work, isn't it? Love the green teeth and a signature rat by Rata and beautifully animated mushroom cloud there. Edition of 22, and this is selling for $17.90, so it's still available. And here's Mosestro. This is Mosestro by Uyo66, also on Tezos object. You're really seeing the resiliency of Tezos right now. I'd argue, like, you're seeing these artists that went all around, but like Tezos just has such a rich collector. Like, artists keep coming back to Tezos, like Uyo66, another great example. It's really interesting. So edition of 10 for 10 Tezos, and look, I mean, 6 gone. It's wonderful. What's happening here? I mean, there are a lot of collectors on Tezos. There are a lot of great artists on Tezos. It's very interesting what's happening here. So here, looks like a work in progress, Quampa color type study in Microsoft Paint, and just beautiful. Actually, we'll see if we can make this larger. This is the max, so just a screenshot. Almost has a Picasso feel to it, doesn't it? Brilliant. Using what I think is the new Microsoft Paint, the new version of it. Just really cool. From Quampa. Here's eBoy, who I have to thank Kiro for pointing me to, a pioneer of pixel art, and it's actually 3 people, actually, I found out yesterday. So on Louis Vuitton here, we're looking at these, I believe they're scarves, Maze of Precious Saffron. So here's one version, and let me just maximize this for you. So you see the pixel art here. Again, I think it was the early 2000s when they started very self-consciously making, art that is pixel art, and I love this Louis Vuitton and even the logo. So very cool there. Here's another one. Now, is this just changing the colors, right? So we're discussing how you can change mediums. We're discussing how you can repeat, as we saw with Dan Control. You can just recolor, and you have a new artwork. We saw that with Louis Osborne. We've seen that with Haiti Rocket. We've seen that with Capin. It's really endless what you can do in digital. Haiti Rocket, Fuß. That sounds like a German word for foot, maybe referring to football, perhaps, and a very cool abstract here from Haiti Rocket using all sorts of different kinds of sized pixels here. Just awesome. Big squares here, Small squares here, different kind of dithering. A beautiful abstract from Haiti Rocket, edition of 1, and accepted an offer of 200 Tezos. Nice sale. I tell you, Haiti Rocket 1 of 1s are a precious thing. Here's another one by Haiti Rocket, Bish. Leave the interpretation to you. So very edgy work here, but again, kind of looks like it belongs in the wall of a gallery. So just interesting and edgy work here from Haiti Rocket. And again, look at these sales. 69 Tezos. Very nice sales. Edition of 3. Vitek Visuals. Here is animated abstract pixel art work. Again, I think only on Instagram. I haven't seen it on the blockchain. So interesting work here by Vitek Visuals. Started looking at them recently. Here's Pixel Fool coming back. Also on Tezos. I think put a work out recently, but see what I'm saying? Like there is a resilience here. Here's Pixel Fool. Old school OG of the Tezos ecosystem. This is 77 Tezos, edition of 10. And look at that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It looks like it's sold maybe one left. I mean, that's real money. A few $100 there. Cream Safa, probably $400 or $500. Cream Safa, just a cool GIF on X. Zooming in on what looks like maybe some sort of ASCII text rendition. Dan Kelly and Draw Dog Tuesday. I have come on to the Dan Kelly, into the Dan Kelly Club here with this really interesting artist. Again, pixel art, doing the dog thing, very experimental compositions. And then here we have a screen being recorded, right? And that is the work, right? Draw Dog Tuesday by Dan Kelly. Not sure if that's minted anywhere. I didn't see a link. There. Here is Manidal. And I believe it's just Manidal. And also with P with the 1, maybe there's, of course, with audio. Too much fun. Pixel art. Nice 2 colors. Love the color. Very nice color. And we're probably going to see exactly. And then so this, of course, could be also physical screen print, 1 color screen print, right? Or you could do Rezo, as a lot of people do with pixel art. Especially with big pixels, it works quite well. Speaking of pixel art, right-click dead, also known as, I think, brain dead. Here, look at this. Very cool on super rare. So a pixel artwork doing very well. Love the keyboard. Has rare on the keyboard. Kind of one of these modern MIDI keyboards. And eyeballs over here. A little, and we saw, I think we saw a small version of this. Again, reusing elements here. I think we saw a larger version of this small thing we see here. Again, kind of a different take on the Pixel Art Factory. This is at a reserve of 0.33 ETH and minted on September 2nd. Cool colors as well. Here's Hermipe Pixel Art. Again, very cool. I think made on a phone, if I'm not mistaken here. 8-bit art. Very interesting style here from Hermipe Pixel Art. I don't think they mint on the blockchain. Element Lead. By using bright colors to represent dark spaces, the specific environmental relationship is amplified into an abstract void solid relationship. So the clarity is reduced, but the ambiguity or the participation of the viewer is increased. So all to say, using the lack of light very consciously of the black when creating this kind of minimal experimental pixel art, being very conscious that the light is not coming through on the black, I think is another way of phrasing that. So very interesting piece. And here doing the opposite. So playing with the inverse and what it means, so to speak. Very minimal kind of conceptual thinking. Here's another piece by Element Lee. Also super interesting, kind of minimal colors here. Entrance and exit. Just very cool and suggestive. I think we saw this 2 tabs ago. We did. And here is KF, Kyle Flemmer. Fully on-chain pixel art, inscribed on Tezos. So all sorts of work being put on the Tezos blockchain, not needing IPFS, interplanetary file server, just putting it all on chain. Again, I'm kind of like, also Bitcoin could be pretty interesting, KF. Glitchtown Arcade 38. So this is a Nintendo Glitch ROM, nice big frame here, very cool work here, very abstracted out. Edition of 1, and now only 1 Tezos at auction, just listed. Psychofuturist, I Have a Reason to Push the Rock, is we continue here, interesting background, kind of peach background, and we see what looks like a baby going through a fetus, rolling down a mountain here with some dithering gradients behind. And here we see maybe it's an alien going into a circle and rolling down. Not exactly sure what Psychofuturist is up to. I Have a Reason to Push the Rock, edition of 12, selling for 6 Tezos. And look at this. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? The market, it's a fantastic market here on Tezos. Elna Frederick, 46. Look at how awesome this is. Edition of 10. And here you see a old Microsoft Windows logo. I don't think they use it anymore. And look at all the offers coming in at 10 to 12 Tezos for this edition of 10. Fantastic. Chrome Void. We saw this in the community. 3 Wojaks. And so I think Wojak is that figure from the memes. And look at how awesome this looks. This is brilliant. There's something about this that just looks, kind of screams preciousness and value and beauty. And these, again, it's kind of like that whole variations. Endless, here's one version. Here's another version. Here's another. And I love this Warholian title, 3 Wojaks. This is awesome. Edition of 1. Well, let's see what happens. I mean, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Here is Yoda. Sensitive Work, edition of 1 at auction, now at 36 Tezos. So video glitch art continuing to do very well here with what looks like an abstract. And you see almost like the CRT lines in the work here. And you see all of the work being done, rescanned with a digital camera off a CRT TV. So again, recording the screens. I love it. Bosque Gracias, Fantasy Chapters number 6. Big shout out to Bosque Gracias. Great to see you in Berlin, and thank you again for the epic gifts here. And look at how beautiful this is. So working on the road, you should, if you want to see the setup, if you want to be inspired by a mobile setup, here across an ocean, you should see last episode where I show Bosque Gracias' studio. Pretty awesome. Edition of 1 and sold for 12 Tezos. Here is Kiro with a work called Bark. This is on for 0.01 ETH and a cool video painting here. Again, looking like real painting, quote unquote, underneath here as a source. And here you see it being turned into and glitched out with video. Very cool on Ethereum. Renki, Fukui. So more interesting work here from Renki. Again, probably it's hard to think of an artist that's been showed more on this show, just for the consistently interesting animated abstracts here. From Renki, edition of 1, often doesn't list them. Sometimes they do. You can always put an offer in for a Renki work. This is Simulacro, and this is in the Fake Whale art market. And only 33 seconds. Nice kind of colors here. Almost a haunted work. It was awesome to meet Simulacro at Neutro, the Neutro art space. You can find it on their YouTube, the interview we did. So on Fake Whale, 9 Tezos, edition of 15. And here is Mika Oladev. So, of course, we saw all those, we saw all of those, I guess, what would we call those? Like kind of glitched out pixel art, all those portraits that Mika Oladev did. Now doing glitched 3D model, edition of 1. This is listed for 125 Tezos. So pretty interesting piece here. This was brilliant. Sean Keenan. So Strange Thing retweeted this. This is gorgeous. This is 1 Tezos. This is an edition of 10. And it kind of reminds me of the Mickeys a little bit. This is a brilliant AI artwork here. Sean Keenan, and I think has been putting out, I went to their profile. I think they're just putting out is you always got to be careful loading stuff up. But I think they're just, it's kind of a, I hesitate to say it's a mistake here, but sometimes you can it's good to curate your work. Because I think this came out like 2 days ago. Wow, look at that one. You see, like if put it this way, because you can it's like, oh heck, Joshua Sobel was pointing this out in an earlier thing. You can kind of oversupply your market, right? Because if Sean Keenan had just released these 3 works here and then put like 30 Tezos on them, a one of one, you could probably put 50 Tezos and they'd probably sell. So it shows the value in curating your work. So here, this is awesome too. I mean, these are gorgeous, and I'm even, sacrificing our frozen video here. Look at this. Hopefully this comes back. Yeah, like just interesting. Again, I don't know what it is with the Mickey and the Donalds and AI artwork, but they work pretty awesome. Selling Islay for Syndrome for picking one up. Here's another one. These are awesome. So, but I mean, releasing like dozens and dozens of work. It looks like a dozen work a day, like 10, 20 works a day, which is maybe overkill. Because the problem with it is it makes it feel like it's not worth as much, and that maybe you are just pressing a button, but you're probably not, right? So I would, don't oversupply the market too quickly. But anyways, beautiful works. I guess that's the moral of the story, is they're beautiful works. Here's RJ, The Birth of Morpheus, Longing. And of course, do whatever you want to do as an artist. Just personal thoughts in a journal here. Love what RJ's doing here. I love the addition, because here we seem to see an AI source, but it's starting to evolve into something where all of a sudden we're seeing different renditions. We see the light changing here on this original AI source, and then adding a little bit of kind of RJ's screen action here in the frame. Edition of 1, and they're selling 25 Tezos. Here's another one, classic RJ kind of screensaver thing, machine work. So very interesting piece here. Love these kind of almost David Hockney-like compositions with the person looking on in silence. Sold to Aw Heck, who we're just mentioning here. The Birth of Morpheus, Nature. So selling for 25 Tezos. So very interesting series here. September 3rd, edition of 1. And here, Demon Ego, and I suspect this video here is AI. So continuing to just put anything and everything within these structures. Just awesome. From Demon Ego, edition of 1, and sold for 44 Tezos. It's booming out here. Canik Zapata, edition of 1. This sold to Unknown Collector at auction for 66 Tezos. And here it is, wild kind of work here, and interactive. When you put the cursor over, it spins. So very cool interactive artwork from Canik Zapata. Here is Martin Joe, who, of course, I follow, another GM bear with coffee, this time with the mountains in the background. Always awesome from Martin Joe, and I believe that was on Object. Here is Joao Salazar, Crash, so animating. Again, taking a 3D real-world object and then digitizing it. It's a new artwork, right? So here, adding some movement, and it kind of looks like a trading floor of sorts. Love the screen here. This is on Foundation for 0.15 ETH, and then into the physicals we go. Nugget Brain. Look at this, Tom and Jerry, a shirt. This artist is so hilarious and so good. Their paintings, remember the VHS? The paintings of the VHS tapes. And there's like a triptych. Just such an awesome artist. Love this artist. This is Charlie Stein, good friend of mine, who is in New York, I believe, right now, and making really interesting, kind of edgy works here. A lot of vinyls, some hypodermic needles, just edgy works, and executing very well. Oil on canvas, not very big, 25 by 18 by 6. There's something to be said for small works. Maybe easier to sell, easier as a collector to just go, I don't need a warehouse for this thing. Here, we have a new show by Jesse Makinson, and this is September 5th to 8th. Come to Margate. So the new season here is beginning, as you can see, and very cool kind of surreal artist here. Almost looks like a painting in the background. Maybe that's the artist. Who knows? Here, it's not gallery. Again, I'd say one of the, if I had to give an award, and I kind of hate award shows, just be super blunt with that. I don't really buy into the whole award idea. But if I had to give an award for, Twitter, Instagram account of the year of like 2024, even 2020, like I'd have to say it's not a gallery. Here is Rocky and Mr. T. I think that's Rocky 4, Rocky 3, not sure. Stefan Schwarzer. This is Risodruck. So again, Riso, which is basically using photocopiers, and you see how well color photocopiers, and you see how well pixelation works here, right? So again, the rendering here changes the artwork, right? So this original artwork, whatever it was, and if I had to guess what this is probably a colored pencils drawing, which is kind of what Stefan Schwarzer is known for. It's probably been put into a computer and some of it pixelated, and then it's rezoed, traveling through the mediums, and then you have this kind of wild, piece of image, like an artwork. Wild artwork. And finally, it's not gallery again, Jason Frania. Look at this one. And the humor, what I call the new humor. Here it is, an alien, very simple airbrush. Again, we've seen this style a few times with the airbrush contrasting with just kind of brush painted in the background. It works like a charm, beautiful contrast. And here are the Great Walk, who, of course, I follow. Stealth, I think a F-19, is that what you'd call it? Or a Stealth, F-35, not even sure. Rad drawing from Walk. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me again. And until, I guess, Monday, take care and have a great weekend. And thank you for joining me and all the support.